Officer Marcus Rodriguez had been patrolling the same neighborhood for 8 years, but something felt different that Tuesday morning. The radio crackled with routine calls, but his instincts told him to pay attention to the seemingly quiet streets. His German Shepherd partner, Rex, sat alert in the passenger seat, ears perked and nose twitching at every passing scent. The call came in at 9:47 a.m. A neighbor had reported strange smells coming from apartment 4B at Riverside Gardens, a rundown complex that had seen better days. The caller mentioned seeing 2 small faces at the window occasionally, but no adults ever seemed to come or go. Marcus knew these types of calls could mean anything from a gas leak to something much worse. As Marcus pulled into the parking lot, Rex immediately became agitated. The dog's training kicked in and he began whimpering softly, a sound Marcus had learned to recognize as Rex detecting something troubling. The apartment building looked ordinary enough from the outside, with peeling paint and broken concrete steps, but Rex's behavior suggested otherwise. Marcus approached apartment 4B with caution. The hallway reeked of garbage and something else he couldn't quite identify. He knocked firmly on the door, announcing himself as police. Silence. He knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. But Rex was practically trembling now, pawing at the door and looking up at Marcus with urgent brown eyes. "What is it, boy?" Marcus whispered, though he suspected he already knew. Rex had been trained to detect various scents, including those associated with distress and neglect. The dog's reaction was never wrong. Marcus tried the door handle. Locked. He called for backup and a supervisor, explaining Rex's unusual behavior and the neighbors' concerns. While waiting, he walked around the building, peering through grimy windows. At the back of the apartment, he saw them. 2 tiny faces pressed against a window so thin and pale they looked like ghosts. Twin girls, maybe 5 or 6 years old, staring out with hollow eyes that seemed too large for their gaunt faces. When they saw Marcus, they didn't wave or smile like most children would. They just stared as if they had forgotten how to hope. Marcus felt his heart clench. In 8 years of police work, he had seen poverty, neglect, and abuse. But something about these 2 little faces hit him differently. He waved gently at them, and one of the girls raised a skeletal hand in a weak response before both disappeared from view. Backup arrived within minutes. Sergeant Williams took one look at Marcus's expression and knew this wasn't a routine welfare check. They had legal grounds to enter based on the evidence of children in potential danger. The building supervisor provided a master key, his hand shaking as he unlocked the door. The smell hit them immediately. It was the stench of rotting food, human waste, and despair. Marcus had to cover his nose with his sleeve as Rex whined and pressed close to his leg. The apartment was dark, with newspapers taped over most windows. Garbage was piled everywhere and the floor was sticky with substances Marcus didn't want to identify. They found the girls in a back bedroom, huddled together on a bare mattress on the floor. They were wearing clothes that hung off their tiny frames like rags, and their hair was matted and dirty. When the officers entered, the girls didn't cry or call out. They just pressed closer together, watching with those same haunting eyes Marcus had seen through the window. "Hey there," Marcus said softly, crouching down to their level. "We're police officers. We're here to help you." "Are you okay?" The girls said nothing. One of them, slightly taller than the other, wrapped protective arms around her sister. Marcus could see every bone in their arms and faces. These children were severely malnourished, probably hadn't had a proper meal in weeks, maybe months. Rex, sensing the children's fear, lay down near the doorway and rested his head on his paws, making himself appear as non-threatening as possible. The dog's gentle presence seemed to ease some of the tension in the room. "Where are your parents?" Sergeant Williams asked gently. The taller girl finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "Mama left. Daddy's sleeping." She pointed toward the front of the apartment. Marcus and Williams exchanged glances. They had searched the apartment and found no adults. The girls had been alone possibly for days or even weeks. There was no food in the refrigerator, just empty containers and moldy remnants. The utilities had been shut off, leaving the children in darkness and cold. Emergency medical services arrived shortly after, along with child protective services. The paramedics were shocked by the children's condition. Both girls were severely underweight, dehydrated, and showing signs of prolonged neglect. They needed immediate medical attention. As the paramedics prepared to transport the girls to the hospital, Marcus noticed something that broke his heart even further. The taller girl refused to let go of her sister's hand, even as they tried to examine them separately. These twins had only had each other for protection and comfort during their ordeal. They stay together, Marcus told the paramedics firmly. Whatever happens, these girls stay together. At the hospital, doctors confirmed Marcus's fears. The twins were in critical condition from malnutrition. They weighed barely 30 pounds each when they should have weighed at least 50. Their bodies were shutting down from lack of proper nutrition. They had survived by eating whatever scraps they could find and drinking water from the bathroom faucet. The girls had no identification, no birth certificates, and no clear records of their existence. The hospital staff estimated they were around 6 years old, though malnutrition had stunted their growth significantly. They spoke very little, seeming to communicate mainly through looks and gentle touches with each other. Marcus couldn't stop thinking about them as he finished his shift. Rex seemed equally affected, remaining unusually quiet during their patrol. When Marcus got home to his own family that evening, he hugged his 2 sons a little tighter and made sure they knew how much he loved them. The investigation into the girl's situation was just beginning, but Marcus already knew this case would stay with him forever. Those hollow eyes and the way they had clung to each other were images burned into his memory. He had saved children before, but something about these twins called to a deeper part of his heart. As he lay in bed that night, Marcus made a decision that would change not only his life, but the lives of 2 little girls who had nearly been forgotten by the world. He was going to make sure they got more than just medical care and placement in the system. He was going to make sure they got the love and family they deserved. Rex, sleeping at the foot of his bed, seemed to sense his partner's determination. The dog's instincts had led them to those children, and now Marcus's heart was leading him toward something he had never expected. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, he held on to hope for 2 brave little girls who had survived the unthinkable. Marcus arrived at Children's Hospital early the next morning, still wearing his uniform from the night shift. He had barely slept, his mind racing with thoughts about the twin girls. Rex sat beside him in the patrol car, sensing his partner's emotional state. The dog had been unusually gentle since their discovery the day before, as if he understood the gravity of what they had witnessed. The pediatric ward was bustling with morning activity, but Marcus felt a heavy silence as he approached the girls' room. Dr. Sarah Chen, the attending physician, met him in the hallway with a grim expression. She had been working with malnourished children for 15 years, but these twins represented one of the worst cases she had ever seen. "Officer Rodriguez," Dr. Chen said quietly, "I need to prepare you for what you're about to see. We've started them on IV fluids and nutrition, but their bodies are in shock. They're scared, confused, and their trust in adults is virtually non-existent." Marcus nodded, steeling himself as they entered the room. The twins were in separate beds but had been positioned so they could see each other. Both girls were connected to multiple monitoring devices, their small bodies looking even more fragile against the white hospital sheets. Their eyes, though still hollow, tracked Marcus's movement as he entered. "Hey there," Marcus said softly, just as he had the day before. "Remember me? I'm the police officer who found you. This is my partner, Rex." Rex, who had been specially cleared to visit the hospital due to his role in the rescue, lay down near the beds and offered a gentle tail wag. The girls watched the dog with curiosity, the first emotion Marcus had seen from them besides fear. The taller twin, whom the hospital staff had started calling Sarah until her real name could be determined, slowly extended her hand toward Rex. The dog carefully moved closer, allowing her to touch his soft fur. For the first time since the rescue, something resembling a smile flickered across Sarah's face. "He likes children," Marcus explained. "Rex helped me find you yesterday. He knew you needed help before I did." Dr. Chen pulled Marcus aside to discuss the girls' condition. They were suffering from severe protein-energy malnutrition, also known as kwashiorkor. Their immune systems were compromised, their muscle mass was critically low, and their cognitive development might have been affected by prolonged starvation. The medical team was cautiously optimistic about physical recovery, but the psychological damage would take much longer to heal. "We also found something interesting," Dr. Chen continued. "The girls have been protecting each other in remarkable ways. Sarah, the taller one, appears to have been giving her sister most of whatever food they could find. She's in worse physical condition despite being older and larger. This revelation hit Marcus hard. A 6-year-old child had been sacrificing her own survival for her sister. The depth of their bond was both heartbreaking and inspiring. Child Protective Services caseworker Maria Santos arrived during Marcus's visit. She was a veteran of the system, having worked with abused and neglected children for over a decade. As she reviewed the case file, her expression grew increasingly troubled. "We still haven't located any family members," Maria explained to Marcus. "No missing persons reports, no school records, no medical history. It's as if these children didn't exist until yesterday. We're running DNA tests and checking databases, but finding relatives could take months or even years." The investigation into the girls' background was revealing disturbing details. Their mother, identified through fingerprints left in the apartment, had a history of drug abuse and had been arrested several times for possession. The father remained unidentified, and neighbors reported that the mother had disappeared approximately 3 weeks before the rescue. The children had been left completely alone, surviving on scraps and rainwater they collected in containers. Marcus spent his lunch break reading to the girls from picture books the hospital had provided. Sarah remained protective of her sister, whom the staff had named Emma, but both children seemed drawn to Marcus's calm presence. Rex had become their favorite visitor, and the hospital staff noticed that the girls' vital signs improved whenever the dog was in the room. "I want to help them beyond just the rescue," Marcus confided to his wife Carmen that evening. "I can't stop thinking about what they've been through and what might happen to them in the system." Carmen Rodriguez had been married to Marcus for 12 years and knew her husband's heart. She had seen him come home affected by difficult cases before, but never like this. Their own sons, Miguel and David, were 8 and 10 years old, living in a warm, loving home filled with laughter and security. The contrast with the twins' experience was stark and painful. "What are you thinking?" Carmen asked, though she suspected she already knew. "I'm thinking about fostering them," Marcus said quietly. "I know it's a huge step, and I know it would change everything for our family. But Carmen, you should see them. They have no one. They've survived something no child should ever experience, and they did it by taking care of each other." Carmen had accompanied Marcus to the hospital that afternoon and had seen the girls herself. Like her husband, she had been deeply moved by their story and their unbreakable bond. The idea of fostering had crossed her mind as well, but she knew the challenges it would present. The next few days brought small signs of progress. The twins began eating solid food, though in tiny amounts and only when they were together. Sarah would test each bite before allowing Emma to eat, a heartbreaking reminder of the trust that had been shattered in their young lives. Physical therapy sessions helped them regain some strength, though they remained significantly underweight. Marcus visited daily, sometimes bringing his own sons to meet the girls. Miguel and David were initially shocked by how thin and quiet the twins were, so different from other children they knew. But they quickly adapted, bringing toys and books to share. The sight of 4 children sitting together, with Rex in the middle of the group, brought hope to everyone involved in the case. Dr. Chen reported encouraging news about the girls' recovery. Their bodies were responding well to proper nutrition, and their cognitive functions appeared intact despite their ordeal. However, the psychological trauma would require specialized therapy and a stable, loving environment for healing. "They need more than medical care," Dr. Chen told Marcus during one of his visits. "They need a family who understands trauma and can provide the patience and consistency required for recovery. Foster care is usually temporary, but these girls will need long-term stability." The weight of this responsibility wasn't lost on Marcus. He and Carmen spent evenings discussing the reality of expanding their family under such circumstances. They would need to undergo extensive training, home inspections, and psychological evaluations. Their lives would change dramatically, and there were no guarantees about the outcome. But every time Marcus looked into those slowly brightening eyes, every time he saw Sarah gently stroking Rex's fur while keeping protective watch over Emma, he knew what he had to do. These children had survived the unthinkable through love and determination. They deserved a chance at the childhood they had been denied. The decision was becoming clearer with each passing day. Marcus and Carmen Rodriguez were about to embark on a journey that would test their limits, challenge their assumptions, and ultimately transform their understanding of family, love, and resilience. The foster care application process began immediately. Marcus and Carmen Rodriguez found themselves navigating a complex system of paperwork, background checks, and interviews. The urgency of the twins' situation had expedited their case, but the requirements remained thorough and demanding. Maria Santos, the CPS caseworker, conducted the first home inspection on a crisp Thursday morning. She walked through the Rodriguez house methodically, checking safety features, available space, and family dynamics. Miguel and David Rodriguez, now fully aware of their parents' intentions, had cleaned their rooms spotlessly and prepared the guest bedroom for potential new sisters. "This is where Sarah and Emma would sleep," 10-year-old Miguel explained eagerly, showing Maria the twin beds Carmen had set up. "We put nightlights everywhere because David was scared of the dark when he was little, so maybe they are too." 8-year-old David nodded solemnly. "Dad says they've been through really hard times. We want them to feel safe here." The maturity and empathy displayed by the Rodriguez boys impressed Maria. She had seen many families struggle with integrating foster children, especially those with trauma backgrounds. The Rodriguez family seemed to genuinely understand the challenges ahead. Meanwhile, at the hospital, the twins were making steady physical progress. After 2 weeks of proper nutrition and medical care, they had each gained nearly 5 pounds. Their hair was beginning to shine and some color had returned to their cheeks. However, the emotional healing remained complex and unpredictable. Dr. Lisa Morrison, a child psychologist specializing in trauma, had begun working with Sarah and Emma. The sessions were challenging, as both girls remained largely nonverbal about their experiences. They communicated primarily through gestures, expressions, and their unbreakable connection to each other. "Trust will be the biggest obstacle," Dr. Morrison explained to Marcus during one of his visits. "These children have learned that adults can't be depended upon for safety or care. They've only been able to trust each other. Breaking through that barrier requires incredible patience and consistency." Rex had become an unofficial therapy dog for the twins. Hospital staff noticed that the girls were most relaxed and responsive when the German Shepherd was present. Rex seemed to instinctively understand his role, remaining calm and gentle during interactions. The dog's presence provided a bridge between the children's guarded hearts and the adults trying to help them. The investigation into the twins' background finally yielded some answers. Police had located their mother, Jennifer Walsh, in a rehabilitation facility 3 states away. She had been arrested for drug possession and had entered a court-ordered treatment program. When confronted about abandoning her children, Jennifer broke down, claiming she had intended to return but had lost track of time during a relapse. "I never meant for it to go so long," Jennifer sobbed during a video call with CPS. "I thought they'd be okay for a few days. I was going to come back. I swear I was going to come back." The father remained unknown, and Jennifer's information about him was inconsistent and unreliable. She had no stable family members who could take the children, and her own recovery was uncertain. The possibility of reunification was extremely remote, if not impossible. This news brought mixed emotions to Marcus and Carmen. While they felt deep sadness for a mother who had failed her children so catastrophically, it also clarified the path forward. The twins would need permanent placement, not temporary care. The foster care training sessions were intensive and eye-opening. Marcus and Carmen learned about trauma responses, attachment disorders, and the specific challenges faced by children who had experienced severe neglect. They studied techniques for building trust, managing behavioral issues, and supporting healing. "Traumatized children often test boundaries extensively," explained trainer Rebecca Hill during one session. "They need to know that you won't abandon them when things get difficult. This testing phase can last months or even years." Carmen found herself particularly drawn to information about twin bonds and how trauma could strengthen sibling relationships. Sarah and Emma's interdependence was both beautiful and concerning. While their connection had saved their lives, it might also make individual healing more challenging. After 3 weeks in the hospital, the twins were medically stable enough for discharge. However, finding appropriate temporary placement had proven difficult. Most foster families weren't equipped to handle twins with such severe trauma backgrounds. The need for the Rodriguez family to complete their certification became increasingly urgent. Marcus worked extra shifts to accommodate the training schedule, while Carmen rearranged her part-time nursing job to attend required sessions. Their son stepped up admirably, taking on additional household responsibilities without complaint. "Are you sure about this?" Carmen's mother asked during a family dinner. "Two traumatized children on top of your own boys? It's going to change your entire life." "It already has," Carmen replied simply. "From the moment Marcus found them, our hearts were involved. We can't just walk away knowing they need a family." The twins' first supervised visit to the Rodriguez home was scheduled for a Saturday afternoon. Dr. Morrison would accompany them, along with Maria Santos, to observe their reactions and provide support if needed. Marcus and Carmen prepared carefully for the visit. They removed anything that might seem overwhelming or threatening, set out quiet activities, and briefed Miguel and David on how to interact gently with their potential new sisters. When the car pulled into the driveway, Rex began wagging his tail excitedly. The dog somehow sensed the significance of the moment. Sarah and Emma emerged from the vehicle slowly, holding hands tightly and surveying their surroundings with cautious eyes. The Rodriguez house was modest but warm, filled with family photos, children's artwork, and the comfortable clutter of a loving home. To children who had lived in squalor and abandonment, it must have seemed almost magical. "This is our house," Marcus said gently, kneeling to the twins' eye level. "Would you like to look around?" Sarah nodded slightly while Emma pressed closer to her sister's side. Rex approached slowly, tail wagging, and both girls' faces brightened slightly at seeing their familiar canine friend. The tour progressed slowly. The twins examined everything with wonder and wariness. They had never seen a house with so many family pictures, so many signs of care and attention. When they reached the prepared bedroom, both girls stood in the doorway for a long time, absorbing the sight of matching beds, soft blankets, and toys arranged on shelves. Miguel and David had been coached about not overwhelming their guests, but their natural kindness shone through. They showed the twins their favorite books, demonstrated how the nightlights worked, and explained the family's daily routines with the seriousness of young diplomats. During snack time, old patterns emerged. Sarah carefully examined each piece of fruit before allowing Emma to eat, and both girls ate small amounts as if conserving resources. Carmen's heart ached watching these survival behaviors that shouldn't exist in children so young. The visit lasted 3 hours, and by the end, both twins seemed marginally more relaxed. Emma had even petted Rex voluntarily, and Sarah had asked one quiet question about whether the bedroom nightlight stayed on all night. As the social workers prepared to return the girls to their temporary placement, Sarah did something unexpected. She approached Marcus and gently touched his police badge, the same badge she had seen the day he rescued them. "Thank you," she whispered, so quietly he almost didn't hear. Those 2 words carried the weight of 1,000 emotions. They represented hope, gratitude, and the first tentative step toward trusting again. Marcus felt tears threatening as he realized how far these brave little girls had already traveled on their journey toward healing. The path ahead remained uncertain and challenging, but this afternoon had proven something important. The Rodriguez family and the twin sisters could potentially become something beautiful together. With patience, love, and unwavering commitment, they might just become the family that all of them needed. The phone call came at 6:30 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Marcus was getting ready for his shift when Maria Santos called with news that would change everything. The Rodriguez family had been approved for emergency foster placement of the twins. Sarah and Emma would be moving in that afternoon. "I won't lie to you," Maria said over the phone. "This is going to be one of the most challenging experiences of your life. But after seeing how the girls responded to your family, we believe you're their best chance at healing." Carmen felt a mixture of excitement and terror. They had prepared as much as possible, but nothing could truly ready them for the reality of caring for 2 severely traumatized children. She spent the morning making final preparations, ensuring the house was safe and welcoming. Miguel and David Rodriguez reacted to the news with the pure joy that only children possess. They had been asking daily when their new sisters would arrive, and the wait was finally over. They spent the morning organizing their shared toys and planning activities they thought the twins might enjoy. Rex seemed to sense the household's anticipation. The German Shepherd positioned himself near the front door, watching and waiting with the alertness that had made him such an excellent police dog. He had become deeply attached to the twins during their hospital visits, and his protective instincts were fully engaged. When the CPS van pulled into the driveway at 3 p.m., the entire Rodriguez family was waiting. Sarah and Emma emerged slowly, each carrying a small bag containing their few possessions. They looked tiny and vulnerable standing in the driveway, but there was something different about them now. 3 weeks of proper nutrition and medical care had begun to restore their physical health. "Welcome home," Carmen said softly, approaching the girls with open arms but respecting their need for space. The first few hours were tentative and careful. The twins explored their new environment methodically, checking closets, under beds, and behind doors. Their survival instincts remained sharp, cataloging exits and hiding places even in this safe space. Dinner presented the first major challenge. The Rodriguez family typically ate together at the kitchen table, sharing stories about their day and planning for tomorrow. For Sarah and Emma, this level of family interaction was completely foreign and overwhelming. Both girls ate tiny portions, constantly watching the adults for signs of disapproval or threat. Sarah continued her pattern of testing food before allowing Emma to eat, a heartbreaking reminder of their recent starvation. When Miguel reached across the table for the salt, both twins flinched and pressed together defensively. "It's okay," Carmen said gently. "Miguel was just getting salt. No one is going to hurt you here." The bedtime routine proved equally challenging. Despite their exhaustion, neither girl wanted to sleep. They sat together on Sarah's bed, whispering in voices too low for anyone else to hear. Marcus and Carmen took turns checking on them throughout the night, finding them awake and alert each time. Dr. Morrison had warned them about this. Children who had survived abandonment often struggled with sleep, fearing that unconsciousness might mean waking up alone again. The twins' hypervigilance was a normal trauma response, but it was heartbreaking to witness. The second day brought new challenges. Emma had a severe panic attack when Carmen tried to help her get dressed, screaming and hiding under the bed until Sarah could coax her out. The intensity of the child's terror shocked everyone, including Miguel and David, who had never seen such distress in someone their age. "It's not about you," Dr. Morrison explained during an emergency consultation. "Emma's reaction is about past experiences with adults who may have hurt her. Building trust will take time and there will be setbacks. Rex proved invaluable during these difficult moments. The dog seemed to understand exactly when the twins needed comfort, positioning himself near them during panic attacks and offering the steady, non-threatening presence they could accept. His warm fur and gentle breathing became sources of comfort when human touch was too frightening. Marcus struggled with the emotional weight of seeing the twins' pain daily. As a police officer, he was trained to solve problems and protect people, but trauma healing couldn't be rushed or forced. He found himself lying awake at night wondering if they were doing enough, if they were the right family for these special children. The first breakthrough came during the third week. Emma was having another difficult morning, overwhelmed by the prospect of eating breakfast with the family. She had retreated to the corner of the kitchen, making herself as small as possible. Rex approached slowly and lay down beside her, his large body creating a protective barrier between Emma and the rest of the room. Instead of her usual fearful withdrawal, Emma reached out and buried her face in Rex's fur. The dog remained perfectly still, allowing the little girl to find comfort in his presence. Gradually, Emma's breathing slowed and she emerged from her panic state. "Rex understands," Sarah said quietly, speaking more words than she had since arriving. "He knows we were scared and alone." This comment revealed Sarah's remarkable insight for such a young child. She had recognized the connection between their experience and Rex's role in their rescue. The dog represented safety, discovery, and hope for a better future. Carmen began incorporating Rex into daily routines. The dog would lie near the twins during meals, making the dining experience less threatening. He would patrol the hallway outside their bedroom at night, providing security they could sense even in sleep. Rex had become their bridge between fear and trust. School enrollment presented another major hurdle. Neither twin had any educational records, and their academic skills were significantly delayed. Sarah could recognize some letters and numbers, while Emma appeared to have no formal learning experiences at all. Placing them in age-appropriate grades would be overwhelming and potentially harmful. The school district recommended a specialized program for children with trauma backgrounds. The classroom was smaller, the pace was individualized, and the teachers were trained in trauma-informed education. Most importantly, the twins could attend together, maintaining their essential connection while beginning to develop individual identities. Their first day of school was terrifying for everyone involved. Both girls clung to each other in the car, and Emma began crying before they even reached the building. Sarah wrapped protective arms around her sister, whispering reassurances in their private twin language. "Rex and I will pick you up," Marcus promised. "We'll be here when school ends." The promise of Rex's presence seemed to comfort them slightly. The dog had become their anchor, the constant in their rapidly changing world. The school day was shortened to just 2 hours initially, allowing the twins to adjust gradually. When Marcus and Rex arrived for pickup, both girls ran to them with relief and joy. They had survived their first day in the outside world, a monumental achievement considering their starting point. At home that evening, Sarah shared something unprecedented. She told the family about a book her teacher had read, describing the pictures and story with enthusiasm. It was the first time she had voluntarily shared an experience that didn't involve Emma directly. Carmen felt tears of happiness as she listened to Sarah's animated description. This small step toward individual expression represented huge progress in healing and development. The Rodriguez family was learning that recovery wasn't linear. Good days were followed by difficult ones. Breakthroughs were followed by setbacks, and patience was required in unlimited quantities. But slowly, steadily, trust was being built. Love was taking root in hearts that had been broken too early and too severely. Rex continued to be their faithful guardian and comfort, while Marcus and Carmen provided the consistency and safety the twins desperately needed. Miguel and David were learning invaluable lessons about empathy, resilience, and the true meaning of family. The journey was far from over, but the foundation was being laid for something beautiful and lasting. 3 months into their placement with the Rodriguez family, Sarah and Emma were beginning to show remarkable progress, though their journey remained complex and unpredictable. The twins had gained significant weight and were now within normal ranges for their age. Their hair had grown thicker and shinier, and their eyes held more light than darkness. The morning routine had become more manageable, though it still required careful navigation. Emma had developed a special bond with Carmen, who had discovered that singing softly while helping the little girl get dressed reduced her anxiety considerably. Sarah remained more independent but watched every interaction between adults and her sister with protective vigilance. Rex had become an integral part of their daily lives. The German Shepherd had developed his own routine, checking on the twins each morning, accompanying them to the school bus stop, and positioning himself in the hallway outside their bedroom each night. His presence had become so essential that the school district had approved him as an unofficial therapy dog, allowing him to visit during particularly difficult days. The breakthrough moment came on a Thursday afternoon in November. Marcus was in the backyard raking leaves while Rex played with the children. Miguel and David were building leaf piles for jumping, while the twins watched from the safety of the porch steps. Emma had been gradually warming up to outdoor activities, but Sarah remained cautious about anything that might separate her from her sister. Rex bounded up to the twins with a stick in his mouth, dropping it at their feet and wagging expectantly. Sarah picked up the stick hesitantly and threw it a short distance. Rex retrieved it immediately, tail wagging with joy. When he returned, he dropped the stick at Emma's feet this time. Emma looked at the stick, then at Rex, then at her sister. Sarah nodded encouragingly. With trembling hands, Emma picked up the stick and threw it as hard as her small frame could manage. Rex chased after it enthusiastically, returning with the same joy and enthusiasm. For the first time since their rescue, both twins laughed. It wasn't the carefree laughter of typical children, but it was genuine joy, pure and wonderful. Marcus stopped raking to watch, his eyes filling with tears as he witnessed this monumental moment. Again, Emma called out, the first time she had initiated an activity in her new home. The stick-throwing game continued for nearly an hour. Other family members gradually joined in, creating a circle of play that felt natural and unforced. When Carmen called everyone inside for dinner, the twins were breathless with exertion and glowing with happiness. This breakthrough opened doors to new experiences. The twins began participating more actively in family activities, though always together and always with Rex nearby. They helped Carmen bake cookies for Miguel's school fundraiser, painted pictures during art time, and even attempted to help Marcus wash his police car, resulting in more water on themselves than on the vehicle. School was becoming less terrifying as well. Their teacher, Mrs. Patterson, had been specially trained in trauma-informed education and understood the unique challenges the twins faced. She never forced them to separate, allowing Sarah to help Emma with difficult tasks and encouraging their natural supportive dynamic. Academic progress was slow, but steady. Sarah was beginning to read simple books while Emma was learning letter recognition and basic counting. Both girls showed artistic ability, creating detailed drawings that often featured stick figures holding hands, houses with multiple windows, and dogs that looked remarkably like Rex. The therapy sessions with Dr. Morrison were revealing important insights about the twins' experiences. Through play therapy and art, the girls were beginning to process their trauma in age-appropriate ways. Sarah's drawings often included protective barriers around smaller figures, while Emma's artwork featured hiding places and safe spaces. Their bond is both their strength and their challenge, Dr. Morrison explained to Marcus and Carmen during a private session. Sarah has taken on a parental role with Emma that's beautiful but also concerning. She needs to learn to be a child again, while Emma needs to develop some independence. This insight led to carefully planned individual activities. Marcus began taking Sarah on special outings to the police station, where she could see his work environment and understand more about the man who had saved them. These trips helped her see adults as helpers and protectors rather than threats. Carmen started one-on-one cooking sessions with Emma, teaching her simple tasks like stirring batter or arranging crackers on a plate. These quiet moments allowed Emma to experience individual attention, without the fear that something bad might happen to Sarah in her absence. The holiday season brought new challenges and opportunities. The Rodriguez family had always celebrated Christmas with extended family gatherings, but they knew this might be overwhelming for the twins. They decided to create new traditions that would feel safe and inclusive for their expanded family. Carmen's mother, Abuela Rodriguez, had been initially skeptical about the foster placement, but had gradually become one of the twins' strongest advocates. She began visiting regularly, bringing small gifts and speaking to the girls in the same gentle Spanish she had used with her own grandchildren. The twins didn't understand the language, but they responded to her warm, nurturing tone. The first time Emma climbed onto Abuela's lap voluntarily was a moment that brought tears to everyone's eyes. The elderly woman had been reading a picture book in Spanish, her voice rising and falling with the rhythm of the story. Emma, drawn by the musical quality of the language, had approached cautiously and eventually settled into the comfort of loving arms. Mijas, Abuela whispered, using the Spanish term of endearment for daughters. You are home now. You are safe. Christmas preparations began in early December with careful sensitivity to the twins' needs. Instead of overwhelming them with extensive decorations all at once, the family introduced holiday elements gradually. First came a small tree that the children could decorate together. Sarah and Emma watched Miguel and David hang ornaments with fascination, eventually adding their own contributions, simple paper angels they had made at school. The concept of gifts was particularly challenging for children who had owned virtually nothing for most of their lives. Marcus and Carmen were careful to explain that Christmas presents were expressions of love, not rewards for good behavior or obligations that required repayment. Shopping for the twins required considerable thought. Too many choices would be overwhelming, while too few might seem like rejection. Carmen finally decided on thoughtful, meaningful gifts that would support their continued healing and development. On Christmas morning, the twins woke early and sat together on their bed, whispering in their private language. When the family gathered around the tree, Sarah and Emma remained cautious observers until Rex bounded over with his own Christmas toy, a rope designed for playing tug-of-war. The dog's enthusiasm was infectious. Soon all 4 children were on the floor with Rex, laughing and playing with his new toy. This broke the ice for the rest of the gift-opening ceremony. Sarah's first gift was a journal with a lock and key, giving her a private space to record thoughts and feelings as her writing skills developed. Emma received a set of colored pencils and a large sketch pad, supporting her natural artistic abilities. Both girls also received matching necklaces with small heart pendants, a symbol of their unbreakable bond. The most meaningful gift, however, was one they gave to the family. Working with their teacher, Sarah and Emma had created a drawing of the Rodriguez family, including Rex. In the picture, 6 stick figures stood in front of a house with smoke coming from the chimney and flowers in the yard. Above the house they had written in Sarah's careful handwriting, "Our family." Marcus had to excuse himself from the room to compose himself when he saw this artwork. The fact that the twins now considered themselves part of the Rodriguez family was more precious than any gift he could have received. The legal proceedings for adoption had begun quietly in the background. Jennifer Walsh's parental rights were being terminated due to abandonment and her inability to provide safe care. The process was complex and emotionally charged, but the ultimate goal was permanent placement for the twins. Maria Santos had become more than a caseworker. She was now a family friend who celebrated every milestone in the twins' recovery. During her monthly visits, she marveled at the transformation she witnessed. The hollow-eyed, terrified children she had first met were becoming vibrant, curious little girls with distinct personalities and interests. Sarah was emerging as a natural leader and helper, often assisting other children at school who seemed sad or confused. Her protective instincts, once focused solely on Emma, were expanding to include others who needed care. Emma was revealing herself to be an artist and observer, creating detailed pictures of everything around her, and noticing small details that others missed. The police department had embraced the twins as honorary family members. Officers who worked with Marcus regularly asked about their progress, and the girls had become mascots of sorts during department family events. Rex's role in their rescue had made him something of a local celebrity, with news articles highlighting the importance of K-9 units and community policing. One evening in January, as Marcus was tucking the twins into bed, Sarah asked a question that showed how much she had grown. "Marcus," she said quietly, "when we get adopted, will we have the same last name as you?" The question caught him off guard. Adoption hadn't been discussed directly with the children yet, though the legal process was moving forward. Sarah's question showed that she understood the permanence of their situation and wanted to belong fully to this family. "Would you like to have our last name?" Marcus asked gently. Both girls nodded solemnly. "We want to be Rodriguez girls," Emma added, her voice stronger than it had ever been. That night, Marcus and Carmen discussed the adoption timeline with renewed urgency. The twins were ready for permanence, ready to stop living in the uncertainty of foster care. They wanted to belong completely to this family that had chosen to love them through their darkest moments. The journey from rescue to recovery was far from complete, but the destination was becoming clear. Sarah and Emma Rodriguez would soon be official members of a family that had been transformed by love, patience, and the unbreakable bonds that can form when people choose to care for each other unconditionally. Rex, sensing the emotional significance of the moment, settled himself in the hallway between all four children's bedrooms, maintaining his protective watch over the family he had helped to create. The adoption proceedings began in earnest during the spring months, nearly 1 year after the twins' rescue. The legal process was complex, requiring extensive documentation, multiple court appearances, and psychological evaluations for all family members. Throughout it all, Sarah and Emma continued to grow stronger, both physically and emotionally. Judge Patricia Coleman had been handling family court cases for over 20 years, but the Rodriguez adoption case touched her deeply. She had read the entire file, from the initial rescue report to the current psychological assessments, and was amazed by the transformation documented in the records. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in May. Marcus and Carmen had explained to the twins that they would be going to court to make their family official. But the children didn't fully understand the legal complexities involved. They simply knew that something important was happening that would affect their future. Rex was granted special permission to accompany the family to court, given his integral role in both the rescue and the twins' ongoing therapy. The German Shepherd wore his official police vest, looking every inch the professional working dog he was. His presence provided comfort to the twins as they entered the imposing courthouse building. Sarah and Emma held hands tightly as they walked through the courthouse corridors. They had dressed in their best clothes, matching blue dresses that Carmen had helped them pick out for the occasion. Despite their growth and progress, the formal setting triggered some of their old anxieties about authority figures and unknown situations. "Remember," Marcus said quietly as they waited outside the courtroom, "everyone here wants to help us become a real family. Judge Coleman is a nice lady who wants to make sure we're all happy together." Dr. Morrison had prepared the twins for this day with role-playing exercises and explanations about what would happen in court. She attended the hearing as both a professional witness and a support person for the children. When their case was called, the Rodriguez family entered the courtroom together. Judge Coleman's chambers had been chosen instead of the formal courtroom to make the environment less intimidating for the children. Even so, Sarah and Emma pressed close together, their eyes wide as they took in their surroundings. "Good morning, everyone," Judge Coleman said warmly. "I've been looking forward to meeting this special family." The hearing began with testimony from various professionals involved in the case. Maria Santos spoke about the twins' remarkable progress in foster care and the Rodriguez family's exceptional commitment to their healing. Dr. Morrison detailed the psychological improvements she had observed and her professional opinion that adoption would provide the stability necessary for continued growth. Marcus testified about finding the twins and the journey his family had taken since that day. His voice was steady and professional, but emotion showed in his eyes as he described watching Sarah and Emma transform from terrified, malnourished children into thriving little girls. "Your Honor," Marcus said, "these children have taught our family more about courage, resilience, and love than we ever imagined possible. They survived something no child should ever experience, and they did it by taking care of each other. Now we want to take care of them for the rest of their lives." Carmen's testimony focused on the daily realities of caring for traumatized children and the joy of watching them heal. She spoke about bedtime stories, cooking lessons, and the moment Emma first laughed while playing with Rex. Her words painted a picture of a family that had been forever changed by love. "We don't see Sarah and Emma as foster children anymore," Carmen said. "They're our daughters in every way that matters. We want to make it official because they deserve the security of knowing they'll never be abandoned again." Even Miguel and David were allowed to speak briefly about their experiences as big brothers. 10-year-old Miguel was articulate beyond his years as he described helping the twins feel safe and included in their family activities. "They're not just staying with us," Miguel told the judge. "They belong with us. Sarah helps me with my math homework, and Emma draws pictures for my bedroom wall. They're my real sisters now." When it came time for the twins to speak, Judge Coleman approached them with gentle care. She knelt down to their eye level and asked if they had anything they wanted to say about their family. Sarah, who had grown remarkably in confidence over the past year, spoke clearly and directly. "We want to stay with Marcus and Carmen forever. They take care of us and keep us safe. Rex protects us too." Emma, still shyer but much stronger than the frightened child who had been rescued, nodded her agreement. "We love our family," she said simply. "We don't want to go anywhere else." The judge asked a few gentle questions about their life with the Rodriguez family, their school experiences, and their feelings about adoption. Both twins answered honestly and openly, showing no fear or hesitation about their desire to remain permanently placed. During a brief recess, the twins sat quietly with Rex in the hallway while the adults discussed final details. Sarah stroked the dog's fur thoughtfully, processing the magnitude of what was happening. "Do you think it will really happen?" she asked Emma in a whisper. Marcus promised. Emma replied with the simple faith that had helped her survive. He always keeps his promises. When court reconvened, Judge Coleman delivered her decision with a smile that lit up the entire room. "Based on all the evidence presented today, and considering the best interests of Sarah and Emma Walsh, I hereby grant the petition for adoption by Marcus and Carmen Rodriguez." The courtroom erupted in quiet celebration. Carmen burst into tears of joy while Marcus wrapped his arms around his entire family. Miguel and David cheered softly, and even Rex seemed to sense the importance of the moment, wagging his tail enthusiastically. "Sarah and Emma," Judge Coleman continued, "you are now officially Sarah Rodriguez and Emma Rodriguez. You have a family that loves you and will always take care of you." The twins looked at each other with wonder and growing smiles. After a year of uncertainty, they finally belonged somewhere permanently. They had survived abandonment, starvation, and trauma, but they had emerged stronger and surrounded by love. The paperwork was completed with ceremony and joy. New birth certificates were issued, changing their names and acknowledging their new parents. Social services involvement would gradually decrease, though support services would remain available as needed. As they left the courthouse, Sarah tugged on Marcus's uniform sleeve. "Dad," she said, testing out the word that was now officially accurate. "Thank you for finding us." Marcus knelt down and pulled both girls into a tight hug. "Thank you for letting us love you," he replied. his voice thick with emotion. The celebration continued at home with a party that included extended family, friends from the police department, and everyone who had supported their journey. A cake decorated with 6 figures and a dog sat in the center of the table, representing their completed family. Dr. Morrison attended the celebration and marveled at the transformation she had witnessed. The hollow-eyed, terrified children she had first met were now confident, happy little girls who ran and played with their brothers and interacted comfortably with loving adults. Rex, wearing a special bandana for the occasion, remained at the center of the celebration. He had gone from being a working police dog to an essential family member, whose instincts had saved 2 lives and helped create something beautiful. As evening fell and guests departed, the Rodriguez family gathered in their living room for story time. It was a tradition that had developed naturally over the months, with different family members taking turns reading aloud. Tonight, Sarah asked to read to the family. She had been practicing with a simple book about families, and her reading skills had improved dramatically. As she read about different types of families and the love that binds them together, Emma leaned against her sister, her shoulder with complete contentment. The adoption was complete, but the real journey was just beginning. Sarah and Emma Rodriguez had a lifetime ahead of them to grow, learn, and thrive in the security of permanent love. They would face challenges and setbacks as all children do, but they would face them together and surrounded by a family that chose them unconditionally. Marcus and Carmen looked at their 4 children and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. Their family had been transformed by 2 little girls who had taught them that love has no limits when combined with patience, commitment, and hope. Rex settled himself in his usual spot in the hallway, maintaining his protective watch over the family he had helped to save and create. 2 years had passed since the adoption was finalized, and the Rodriguez household buzzed with the energy of a thriving family. Sarah and Emma, now 8 years old, had blossomed into confident, curious children whose past trauma, while not forgotten, no longer defined their daily lives. The morning routine had evolved into a well-orchestrated dance of family life. Sarah had become the family's unofficial morning coordinator, making sure everyone had their backpacks, lunch money, and homework. Emma had developed into the family artist, leaving colorful drawings on the refrigerator and bedroom walls that chronicled their adventures and milestones. Rex, now showing some gray around his muzzle, remained the beloved family guardian. Though he had officially retired from police work to focus on his role as a therapy dog, he still accompanied Marcus to community events where his story inspired other families and law enforcement officers. The twins' academic progress had been remarkable. Sarah excelled in reading and had discovered a love for science, particularly astronomy. She spent hours looking through the telescope Marcus had given her for Christmas, mapping constellations and dreaming about space exploration. Emma's artistic talents had flourished, and her teachers regularly displayed her work in school art shows. More importantly, both girls had developed individual friendships while maintaining their special twin bond. Sarah had become best friends with a classmate named Lily, bonding over their shared love of books and soccer. Emma had connected with a quiet boy named Marcus Jr., named after her adoptive father, who shared her passion for drawing and nature observation. The therapeutic work continued, though less intensively now. Dr. Morrison met with the family monthly rather than weekly, focusing on continued growth and addressing new challenges as they arose. The twins still experienced occasional nightmares or anxiety episodes, but they had learned healthy coping mechanisms and trusted their parents to provide comfort and security. Marcus had been promoted to detective, partly due to the recognition his work on the twins' case had brought to community policing initiatives. He frequently spoke at conferences about the importance of follow-through in cases involving children, and how law enforcement officers could make lasting differences in young lives. Carmen had returned to full-time nursing and specialized in pediatric trauma care, inspired by her daughter's journey. She used her experience as an adoptive parent to help other families navigate similar challenges, becoming an unofficial mentor to parents in crisis situations. Miguel and David, now 12 and 14, had grown into remarkable young men who understood the value of compassion and family loyalty. Miguel had started a peer mentoring program at his middle school, helping younger students who were struggling with various challenges. David had developed an interest in veterinary medicine, partly inspired by Rex's therapeutic work with his sisters. The family's influence had spread throughout their community. Marcus and Carmen frequently hosted informational sessions for potential foster and adoptive families, sharing both the challenges and rewards of caring for traumatized children. Their story had been featured in local news programs and police department publications, inspiring others to consider opening their homes to children in need. Rex had become something of a celebrity in child advocacy circles. His role in the rescue and subsequent therapy work had led to the establishment of a canine therapy program within the police department. Other dogs were being trained to provide similar support for traumatized children, creating a lasting legacy from one afternoon's instinctive response to suffering. The twins' birth mother, Jennifer Walsh, had completed her rehabilitation program, but had voluntarily relinquished all parental rights during the adoption process. She occasionally sent cards to the family through the social services system, expressing gratitude for the love and care being provided to her daughters. While reunion was not appropriate or desired, the family felt compassion for a woman who had lost so much to addiction and mental illness. One significant milestone came during the twins' 3rd anniversary with the family. Sarah had written a school essay about heroes, choosing to write about Marcus and Rex. The essay was selected for the district-wide writing competition, and Sarah read it aloud at an award ceremony attended by the entire Rodriguez family. "My hero is my dad, Marcus Rodriguez," Sarah read with confidence that would have been unimaginable 3 years earlier. "He saved me and my sister when we were scared and hungry. But the real heroic thing is that he didn't just save us once. He saves us every day by loving us and making us feel safe. He taught me that heroes don't just wear uniforms. They show up every day with kindness and keep their promises." The audience was moved to tears, but none more so than Marcus himself. Seeing Sarah standing confidently at the podium, articulating her thoughts with clarity and emotional intelligence, represented the complete fulfillment of every hope he had held during those early, difficult days. Emma's contribution to the family's healing story was equally significant but characteristically quieter. She had begun creating a photojournal of their family life, documenting holidays, everyday moments, and special occasions with the eye of a natural storyteller. Her photographs captured the joy, love, and ordinariness that had replaced fear and uncertainty in their lives. The family had also become advocates for system reform, working with legislators to improve funding for trauma-informed care and expedite adoption processes for children who could not be safely reunified with birth families. Their testimony before state committees was powerful and effective, contributing to several important policy changes. Rex's declining health became a concern during the twins' 4th year with the family. The faithful German Shepherd was showing signs of aging and arthritis, though his spirit remained strong. The family made adjustments to accommodate his needs, installing ramps and providing orthopedic bedding, determined to give him the same devoted care he had provided them. When Rex passed away peacefully at home one autumn evening, surrounded by the family he had helped to create, the grief was profound but mixed with immense gratitude. Sarah and Emma, now mature enough to understand death as a natural part of life, helped plan a memorial service that celebrated Rex's incredible contribution to their story. "Rex taught us that love comes in many forms," Emma said during the memorial. "He loved us before we could love ourselves. He protected us when we couldn't protect ourselves. He'll always be part of our family." The family planted a tree in their backyard in Rex's memory, creating a living monument to the dog whose instincts had changed everything. They also established a scholarship fund for children aging out of foster care, ensuring that Rex's legacy would continue helping vulnerable young people. As Sarah and Emma entered their preteen years, they began showing interest in helping other children who had experienced trauma. Sarah volunteered to read to younger children at the local library, while Emma created artwork for the pediatric wing of the hospital, where she had once been a patient. The Rodriguez family had become living proof that families are created not just by blood, but by choice, commitment, and unconditional love. Their story continued to inspire others while demonstrating that healing is possible when children are given safety, stability, and the unwavering belief that they deserve to be loved. Marcus often reflected on that Tuesday morning when Rex had alerted him to 2 small faces in a window. He could never have imagined that moment would lead to such transformation, not just for Sarah and Emma, but for his entire family and community. The rescue had been just the beginning of a love story that would last lifetimes. Sarah and Emma Rodriguez had survived their darkest chapter and were now writing new ones filled with hope, possibility, and the security of knowing they would never be abandoned again. Their journey from victims to thrivers served as a beacon of hope for other children waiting for their own rescue, their own families, and their own chance at the childhood every child deserves. The little girls who had once clung to each other for survival now reached out to the world with confidence, knowing they had a home base of love to return to each day. Their story was no longer about what they had lost, but about everything they had gained and everything they would become.